what are the implications of that for not just Amazon, but what's the implications for the rest of retail? And the first implication is that it is forcing, even though online retailing is about 8% of the total retail industry, it is growing at over 17% a year. And in the rest of retailing, it's growing at best in single digits a year, percentages a year. And so as we look at the future of brick and mortar retailing, we're saying, how do the brick and mortar retailers adapt as adaptive corporations, the best ones, to be able to deal with this type of competition? Well, one of the things that is happening is that other technology solution companies like Apple and Google are now starting to go in and map the interior of retail stores right down to where a product is located on the shelf, and using technologies like iBeacon, they're able to take technology and tell the customer what product they're standing in front of, and based on the customer's shopping experience, they can make the decision, do they offer this customer a different price, a different incentive than a customer who hasn't bought products in this category before or has not been a loyal user. We already see this in Starbucks, where if you walk into a Starbucks, there is tracking ability to be able to know who you are, what you bought last time, and give you special offers. And I believe that we're going to see more and more capability for the brick and mortar stores to be able to integrate with smart services where the customer is going to be given increasingly customized value when they go shopping in the brick and mortar stores. Customers are already using their telecommunications smartphones to be able to do comparative shopping when they go into a brick and mortar store. The brick and mortar stores are saying, okay, we'll try to integrate with that and turn a problem into an opportunity for ourselves. And so now some brick and mortar chains are actually encouraging people to do their comparative shopping online and then trying to give them a very different, higher quality in-store customer experience. Apple clearly pioneered the in-store customer experience with Apple stores. So lots of innovation is taking place at retail. And now zoom out and think about how some of the big technology companies could do things even more disruptive than that. For example, eBay has become extremely successful with their PayPal system of payment, and they're now extending that into loyalty programs so they can participate in the whole value cycle of relationships with a customer from the time that the customer is acquired until that customer is monetized, and the various loyalty programs with that customer on a recurring basis over time. So PayPal can be much more than a one-off transaction of somebody paying electronically. Apple has over 600 million profiled names on iTunes where they know the credit card information. As you take their one-touch ID button, which is based upon fingerprint recognition, initially it's being used as a password to get in access to the device, but many believe it is fully going to be enabled to be the transaction click for making purchases on various products and services from a smartphone, from an iPhone. And so you combine Apple's 600 million profiled names with the ability to do one-click purchase with fingerprint recognition, and then combine that with the iBeacon technology in stores and Apple mapping in stores, and you can begin to see how it can open up a whole new sector of transformative disruption for a company like Apple. So Apple could take the building blocks of its other businesses and be able to build something with those building blocks that takes them much further, into the e-commerce meets brick and mortar convergence, just because the scale at which Apple can operate 600 million profiled names off of iTunes is way beyond even the largest, most successful e-commerce companies like Amazon. So I suspect that when there are giant corporations who are real innovators and have the ability to do transformative things, they're always the derivative effects. Remember the derivative effects? Derivative effects means that when big technologies or big market leaders move in a market, and you see the convergence of big companies or big technologies coming together and creating and shaping new opportunities, they're always derivative effects, and often those derivative effects are the biggest opportunities to create new kinds of businesses. So I look at disruption as not just the deconstructing of an industry, in this case, deconstructing brick and mortar retail and then reconstructing brick and mortar retail with many of the enablements of mobile technology and cloud computing and unstructured data. But I also look at it from the standpoint of derivative effects. And the way that I view things is not as a former CEO or as someone who managed large organizations. I think the more interesting way to look at these transformative opportunities is as a systemic designer, as a systems designer. I always try to look at a business through its complete value chain, because you make money in a business. In one era, you may make it in one part of the value chain. In another era, the money may be made in an entirely different part of the value chain. As an example, Microsoft, in the era of personal computers, made a huge amount of money selling their operating system with licenses for Windows, and then licensing out the application software suite, Microsoft Office, and that was wildly successful. Then along comes Google in a totally different era, and they say, we're going to give the Android operating system away for free. Why? Because they want to make money on the search and advertising from that on the mobile device. Or Google says, we're even going to give the applications away for free. And so now Google is offering a set of mobile applications, software applications that can sit on top of their free Android system. They're making the applications free. Why? Because they can make money, further along the value chain, again, with really building out the leading position to monetize advertising on the mobile device. So thinking about a business systemically, particularly when you're looking at the old way to the new way, and particularly when you have the convergence of different domains. In the case of e-commerce, it's the conversion of brick and mortar, conversion with telecommunications and mobile services. And then it's the derivative effects, and then you understand the derivative effects best by looking at it systemically. So the real skill of someone who is building a transformative business is to think like a designer, but always start your design from the viewpoint of the customer. It's always about the customer experience. It's always about the cost of acquiring that customer, the loyalty of that customer while they're in your value system, the monetizing of that customer. All your metrics, I think, are best understood when you're building transformation businesses, through the vantage point of the customer. Because of where technology is taking us, the affordability of tracking customer information on an individual customer basis is completely practical. Even a decade ago, that was an impossibility. Today, it's completely practical. So systemic design, customer-centric, being able to personalize it down to each metric on each customer, and whether it's tracking the capital required to acquire and hold on to a customer, or whether it's tracking the profits that are made by that customer, or tracking the churn of that customer, or tracking the behavior of that customer. Everything, I believe, should be looked at systemically through the vantage point of the eyes of the customer.